Welcome back, everyone, to episode number 45 of the Beginner's Master Speedrun. I am coming into today rated 1702. Had a really crazy episode in number 44. Almost lost my first game of the whole series. So if you didn't see that one, definitely check it out. But I'm keeping the winning streak alive, 139 games and counting. And I did update my profile picture. This is a photo of me when I was rated around 1700 US chess. Behind me is my trophy collection, a lot of trophies I won in my scholastic days. So I don't think I'll be winning any trophies today, but hopefully I can keep providing some lessons, providing some value for the viewers. Let's hop into the first game. Okay, first opponent, playing Edouard 1968. And I'm going to stick with the openings I played when I was younger. Pretty standard King's Pawn. White's taking some time, going for an Italian. And c3. Okay, so we'll find out if White wants to be ambitious with d4 or play more slowly with pawn d3. Yeah, when I was younger, I like to play this this d4 line. It can lead to a gambit, but okay, White's being solid here. I'm gonna play d6, and probably one of the most flexible moves, opening up the bishop. White's preventing any bishop g4 ideas. Now, in this position, there is an idea that I like to play, usually sooner rather than later. It's to start with pawn a6. Very simply giving the bishop room to move back. Because there are cases where white expands and I want the bishop to have the square on a7. So yeah, after b4, I can happily tuck away the bishop. And white is expanding on the queen side anyway. So debating here, like if I castle, then white can play bishop g5, and the pin might be a little bit annoying because I don't really want to play h6 g5 and expand. I am considering knight e7 to reroute to g6, but that could walk into pawn d4. So I don't think I want to allow that either. I might just play h6 here, just still staying flexible. So when I do castle, then there won't be any bishop g5. White castles, I'll castle too. Okay, so we both have a pretty solid position. The Italian is one of these openings that usually guarantees an interesting battle going into the middle game. And yeah, so far White's really doing nothing wrong, like playing a lot of the standard moves. I'm going to go for my plan, knight e7. This plan did come up in a recent speedrun episode. Basically, the idea is just to put the knight on the king side and then also have c6 available. There might be ideas of c6 and d5. White's kind of doing the same sort of knight maneuver, wants to get the knight to g3. There's a move knight h5 which comes to mind here, but that leaves a knight undefended. It could walk into knight takes e5. So let me take a moment. Knight h5, knight takes e5, knight takes e5. Yeah, I don't think that's worth going for. There's a move b5 that comes to mind. As if takes, I'll be threatening the bishop, but also bishop takes f2 with tactics against a rook. But is that worth going for? Like, white could just move back. Yeah, I'm just gonna play normally here. And no need to be too crazy with like b5 or knight h5. I think c6 is a pretty standard approach. And if I do get a chance to play pawn d5, it does come with tempo. I can try and take over the center. White plays bishop e3, so challenging my bishop. And I really don't see anything wrong with playing d5 immediately. I mean, hitting the bishop. If bishop takes a7, I could take this bishop. and then likely win the d-pawn. Yeah, we'll trade in the center. And now I have two nice center pawns. I mean, usually it's white who wants to achieve such a center from the Italian. But things are now getting a bit spicy because I have an option which bishop to take. And yeah, as I was mentioning, pawn takes c4 leaves this bishop attacked. And I think I'll be winning the... Or will I? Because if takes, there's bishop c5 hitting my rook. Yeah, maybe that doesn't work. It takes bishop c5, rook e8. I'd actually lose a pawn in that line. So I'm probably better off just taking the bishop. And then trying to reinforce the center. And white does have two attackers against e5. But rook e8 is coming. Bishop's still attacked. I think rook e8 is very natural here. And yeah, it's one of these double-edged positions where like I do have more space, more center, but my pawns could be targets. And white plays a5. I think that's a nice positional move. Clamping down. I'm inclined to play bishop d7 and put it on c6. This feels very reminiscent to a game I played, I think it was episode 42 or 43, where I had a very similar sort of opening. I got the center, and it was a game where I actually got in trouble, but there was a point in the game where I had this idea and didn't actually execute it. But I think in this position, the bishop will be really nice if it gets to c6. Knight g3, okay. I could play bishop c6 right away, but I'm going to start with rook a8. Just want the rook back on 8th rank. The bishop is sort of useful in discouraging knight f5. So yeah, I'm not really in any rush to play this move. I might look to start with rook c8 and just put pressure on the c file. Somewhat of a weakness in white's position, the c3 pawn. Yeah, with queen c2, I think the rook is very happy to align with the white queen. Now, I'm not threatening to win the pawn, but probably looking just to apply pressure. Like queen c7, perhaps. Maybe knight f4, the right moment. There's also d4 to consider, but I think d4 is a bit too committal. I could walk into c4, and I leave the e-pawn a bit backwards. So, what to do? Debating between queen c7 and knight f4. Or even bishop c6 to start. Queen c7 might provoke c4. Yeah, I don't want to take too much time here. I'm going to play queen c7. I think it's a natural move. I'm still trying to figure out what to do if white plays c4. So I'm reluctant to play d4, but it might be the best call. Could also consider taking. I could also just ignore this move and perhaps look to do something else. Knight f4 is still a possibility. There's also bishop e6 looks interesting. Bishop e6, there's takes. I'm going to play bishop e6. It's a type of move that keeps all the tension in the position. I do obstruct my rook, but the pawn's defended enough times. And if white plays c5, then there's less pressure against d5. I might actually move back and put the bishop on c6 or b5 in that case. Okay, white does play c5. Yeah, I'm going to move back. It seems like I'm wasting some time moving the bishop back and forth. But I think the bishop served its purpose, like provoking white to move forward. And now there's less pressure against the center. The one thing I'm realizing, though, is if I move here or here, then the knight could find its way to d6. So yeah, I actually have to be really careful here. Like bishop c6, knight f5. Yeah, this might seem very foolish, but I'm thinking I might just move back. There's also queen c6. It's perhaps a little bit preferable. Yeah, white has two attackers against both center pawns, but I have two defenders against, or two defenders for both center pawns. So I'm really just trying to hold everything together. Pawn d4. Okay, now I can play pawn e4. So this is a big change in the structure. Gaining space, attacking the knight. I don't think white can afford to play this move. Then I take and then take and then take and win a pawn. I mean, if white retreats, let's say knight d2, then looks like everything will be well controlled. I could put the bishop back on e6 to support the d5 pawn. Yeah, I don't really see too many other options for white between like this, and if white wants to sacrifice, maybe it's an interesting try to open the d file. There's also knight h2, but that looks pretty passive. Yeah, I'll play bishop e6. Oh, okay, I just blundered. I played that a little bit too quickly. I thought it's just a solid move. I blundered bishop a4, which white also overlooked. So let's move the queen off the diagonal. Yeah, the bishop actually served its purpose on d7, preventing bishop a4. So maybe I would have had some compensation there. But okay, I'm thankful to have not lost material. I'm going to keep reinforcing this pawn. And with the space advantage, I can probably look to attack on the king side. Like, there is a nice idea, knight f4 into d3, maybe even potentially sacking on h3 if the queen can come in. I still have to be careful. I can't really put the queen on d7, allow bishop a4. I should note in these lines with b5, there's en passant. Knight f5 played. Ah, that's a good move. Because if I take... Yeah, the knight's actually coming into d6. I was trying to avoid in other lines. I'm going to take this. I still have to defend the pawn, too. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play knight f4. And if white plays knight d6, I'm going to sack the exchange. I think it's worth just getting rid of the knight. It might objectively be not great for me, but I think there's a lot of compensation here. And this was an intentional sacrifice, not blundering the exchange like what white could have done in the other line. But yeah, this still takes a lot of work. We're both getting low on time. Queen d2. I want to play knight h5, but I don't want to get tangled up. Maybe g5. G5, no. I'm going to play knight e6. Try and keep the pressure against these pawns. Also, I like the knight here because if white takes over the c-file, it's hard for white to infiltrate, controlling all the infiltration squares. Yeah, so the current material situation is rook for knight and pawn. I'm putting the rook here. I know maybe it seems natural to put it on the open file, but I don't want to trade rooks. And I'm thinking that long term, maybe I can prepare advancing the f pawn. Like ideally, knight h5. Okay, white wants to play b5. I think I still go for this. White's going to play b5. If I go in, yeah, let's go in with a knight. And there is takes and then rook b6. I'm thinking queen a3 to hit the bishop. Also maybe coordinate against h3. Getting very spicy. And queen, let's go for queen a3. I do see queen b4 and then maybe queen d3. I definitely don't want to trade queens. I have a lot of attacking potential with the knight on f4, pawn on e4, and there's also knight d3 still in the air. Bishop d7. That's a good move. Ooh, what to do? Maybe knight d3. Okay, attacking the rook, leaving the knight available for capture. But if takes, I probably just take back and then open the f-file. Okay, now I can take the pawn. Still kind of a messy position. a6 is hanging. Yeah, what's going on here? I'll bring the queen back towards the king side. And rook b7 might be coming. Rook a7. All right, let's play this. I'm looking for ways to generate tactics. Maybe I can play knight f4 and then eventually knight e2. There's also knight e5. Yeah, this looks nice. Knight e5. I'm threatening knight f3, also pressuring the bishop. If white plays king h1, though, I'm not sure what to do. Maybe knight c4 and attack the queen and pawn. White finds king h1. Yeah, kudos to my opponent, playing a very good game so far. Queen b4. Can I take? I think I can get away with taking. Making sure there's no queen takes f8 shenanigans. Always have to look for the forcing moves, but I don't think it leads to much for white. It's still a fascinating endgame. Unfortunately, I think this game is going to be determined by time. Maybe fortunately for me. Knights look pretty powerful in the center. White is maybe winning the pawn. I could play this. Oh no, I can't play that move. Wow, my knight's almost trapped. Do I have this move? Not really. I have this move, actually. Okay, attacking the rook, and if takes, I defend. And yeah, it looks like I'm winning on time. Okay. A somewhat anticlimactic finish to this game. Really hard-fought game. According to the eval bar, final position is equal. Yeah, my opponent found some like really good moves, really good resources this game. It's possible I went wrong in a few moments. Definitely had the one like tactical oversight that we both missed. But going from the opening here, yeah, white basically did what you should do in the Italian, like develop like this, expand on the queen side, do the the Italian, or sometimes we call it the Spanish night walk. And we got into a very tense middle game position. Yeah, all of this was fine. Just seeing if the engine has any improvements for either side. The position is like roughly balanced. Like I have the center, but white has like decent squares for the pieces, very solid setup. I wanted to target the pawn on the c file, but I mean, white seemed to have everything under control. c4 is a good move. And yeah, it just took a lot of patience to make progress. Yeah, the engine isn't super fond of queen c6. It says rook c d8. Ah, so sacrificing the pawn, but making it so if white takes the pawn, there's takes, takes, and bishop a4, and black would win material here. But okay, I saved the pawn directly with queen c6, and then I proceeded to blunder with bishop e6, allowing bishop a4. White did not find it, played knight f1, and then, yeah, it was still a fight. And yeah, when white played knight e3, I think I was just kind of oblivious to the idea of knight f5 and knight d6. I had seen it previously, but I just kind of missed it in this position. And yeah, after takes, takes, I think I had to sacrifice the exchange. Yeah, engine supports rook takes g6. Yeah, I didn't want to just move my rook and leave the knight on such a strong square. There's also cases where d5 could fall with my rook obstructed on the d file. So this is actually fine according to the engine. And yeah, it was just still like a very close battle. A type of position where all three results were possible. We were both taking a decent amount of time. And yeah, things got very spicy around here. I overlooked this move bishop d7. Computer doesn't like it. The computer is saying bishop to b3, which is a nice way to obstruct the queen and pressure the pawn. After bishop d7, knight d3. Yeah, I missed, apparently I missed queen e7. I could reroute. Oh, wow. Queen e7 is actually a really nice move. Wow. It's the type of move maybe you glance at, you see the engine recommends, and then you just don't think much of it. But this move not only attacks the bishop, but it threatens a devastating queen g5 with a double threat of queen takes g2 and knight h3 winning the white queen. So if white takes the knight, the point for black is you don't take back the bishop. Black has queen g5, leaving the bishop on e6, and white is either getting mated or losing the queen. Best move for white is queen takes f4. It's still a fight. White has some material for the queen after bishop takes d5, but this would be preferable for black. So that was a miss. I mean, queen e7 with the idea of queen g5, it's kind of hard to see. You really have to have a good sense of the board geometry. So yeah, I missed it. I played knight to d3, which looked natural. I mean, hitting the rook and attacking the pawn. And yeah, I won the pawn. And yeah, I mean, I'm getting to the level where my opponents are being a lot more aware of the tactics and the position. I think at a lower level, most players would just blunder the threat of knight f3. But yeah, my opponent saw it, played king h1. Apparently there is a better approach here. Queen b4 immediately is actually much stronger, also avoiding knight f3, but threatening to trade queens and then getting ready to push the pawn. Yeah, Eval Bar says black is in big trouble here. So maybe king h1 wasn't the most accurate and did allow me to simplify. And yeah, the final position, engine says it's equal. I think it's one of these positions where all three results are still possible. Best move would have been rook a7 and then knight f4 to defend. And yeah, who knows what would have happened if we had more time to play this out. But yeah, very hard fought game to start the episode. Let's do another. Rated 1713. Playing Chess Barnyard. Rated 1629. And okay, maybe this time I'll play an Italian from the white side. Yeah, let's play d3. We'll have a perhaps similar opening. Black's putting the bishop on e7, so a little bit more passive compared to bishop c5, but still playable. Yeah, I'll just kind of do the usual rook e1. Don't think there's a huge difference with the move order in such a position. Though maybe I should have started with c3 to allow for like check and then saving the bishop. Yeah, I might be having to trade off the bishop for knight. Because if I play bishop b5, c6, bishop a4, b5. Yeah, I'm regretting not having played c3 or even like a3 or a4 to give the bishop room. But okay, I'll cope with this. Play knight to d2. And if takes, I can take back. And I think in this case, the knight will be happy to find a square on e3. Yeah, black pins a knight. I'll play knight e3. Hit the bishop. Yeah, very often the knight will maneuver via f1 to e3 or g3, but c4 is another way to get there. So queen d7. Now black is giving me the choice to take the bishop, which I'm kind of tempted to do, but yeah, maybe I'm not in any rush. I'm thinking just pawn c3 here. A very flexible move. Later I might want to expand with pawn d4. Black plays pawn c5, okay. Grabbing some space. Now I'm really just looking for my long-term plan in the position. I mean, the drawback of c5 is it does weaken d5. So I'm trying to imagine a scenario where I trade off black's bishop and knight, and then can plant a knight on d5. It's kind of a faraway fantasy, but I'm leaning towards knight takes, just to open up my bishop too. We will simplify a little bit. Okay, queen digs g4. And queen a4 check comes to mind. Then there's knight d7 or queen d7. I'm also thinking bishop g5. Like, if I can trade off bishop for knight, I think my knight is going to be better than black's bishop. So, yeah, let's go for this. And the queen on g4 does look a little bit scary, like aligned with my king, but don't really think black can do much damage. One thing I am considering, though, is if takes, black could take and open the g-file, but I think that's fine. Like, just knight d2, I can offer the queen trade. So let's go for this. And I think I'll play knight d2 anyway, offering the queen trade. And now it's this knight that wants to maneuver to e3 and eventually to d5. And I can do so via c4 or f1. So both games featuring some higher level positional play in the Italian opening. Okay, we see queen e6. Yeah, now it's about just getting the knight to this outpost square. And if I play knight c4, there is pawn d5. But then takes and e5 should be a target. Like, I'm going to have tactics with f4, knight takes e5 first. So yeah, let's go for this. Okay, so my dream has come true. I mean, I was envisioning a situation like this several moves ago when like more minor pieces were on the board. But yeah, it's essentially going to be a good knight versus not such a good bishop. And once I get the knight to d5, it's going to be very hard for black to do anything about it. The bishop can never access the d5 square. So let's hop in, threatening the fork. Black defends. Okay, so black is maybe trying to play f5, which does make sense. Try and destabilize my pawn on e4. Looking at the move queen f3. An attempt to discourage pawn f5. Not sure if that actually discourages it, though. Another idea is to play pawn a4, which I'm liking a bit more, especially given that black's rooks are disconnected with the bishop on d8. And black doesn't have a6 because I take, and then black can't take back. So it's not actually clear how black deals with the tension. And yeah, with takes, I can take probably with rook. And now I can perhaps focus on using the a-file, double up and target the a-pawn. Okay, black plays f5. Queen b3 comes to mind to set up some tactics. What else to do? I could play kind of a slower and simple move, queen e2. I don't think I have to react to this move. Yeah, I think I'll just play queen e2. Just preparing rook a1. And I am allowing pawn f4, but I won't mind that. I mean, or maybe I do mind it. I mean, yeah, black perhaps is threatening pawn f3. I do have to be careful, actually. This pawn f3 could be quite annoying. Yeah, I was thinking I could easily play h3 and queen to g4. Actually thinking of starting with queen f3, just blockading the pawn. Queen f3, g5, h3, queen g6. Not super simple. Could also play queen h5 immediately here. That also allows f3. But then I just take it. I think that's okay. In queen h5, it's really an attempt to slow down black's play on the king side. It does seem like maybe a slightly vulnerable square for the queen. But one of the ideas is to play h3 and queen g4, offer the trade. You're really trying to keep the game positional. Now, I still have the plan of rook e to a1, pressure the pawn. We might end up seeing rook f7. Okay, pawn a5. So, yeah, I'm going to play pawn h3. Yeah, maybe there were better ways to handle this, but really just trying to keep control. I do have to watch my time as well. Let's play this move. Now the queen... I mean, if black doesn't want to trade queens, yeah, queen f7 is very logical. H5 might be coming. Yeah, it's still tricky. b4 doesn't quite work. I really have to watch my time too. Oh, what to do? h4, h4, h5. Yeah, I'm going to play h4. I mean, one of the hopes is to get in h5. And if black plays h5, then at least I have the h3 square for the queen. And it's not easy for black to set up a battery against a pawn because my knight's controlling e7 and f6. Yeah, now I probably play f3. Do I need to play f3? There's also b4 now. Yeah, b4 actually is a bit more timely. Because the rook's not defended. It's a move I was considering when the queen was on f7, but with the rook not defended, the a pawn is pinned. Okay, with that move, I'll play g3. So I'm trying to hold together the king side. Really just trying to make it so black doesn't have a way to crack the position. The pawn on f3, it does look scary. But now at least a nice thing is the knight could retreat, maybe maneuver to f5, find a more useful outpost. Yeah, I'm also realizing, like, this situation, like, the bishop has done a nice job at restricting my knight, but the knight also does a good job at restricting the bishop. It's hard for black to find a good square for the bishop. It wants to go here, align with my king, but b6 is off limits. And I'm now fantasizing about tactics. Like if black allows... Okay, I was fantasizing about deflecting the rook and bishop and playing knight e7 with a fork. But now maybe I can just make the battery. The queen was defending the rook, but now there's a bit more pressure on the file. And it looks like I should be winning this pawn now. Okay, let's take. Like if I were black, I'd probably be looking to play g5 ASAP. Just try and generate some counterplay. If g5, I probably have to take. So black is blockading. Do I have queen? Queen c8 looks interesting. I'd also have queen f5, forcing the queen trade. There's also knight b4. Not sure what to do here. I'm going to play knight b4 first. Not actually sure if I want to push, because it allows bishop d6. There. Oh, let's push. I might regret this. Queen b3, okay. Let's go in with my queen. I have to be really careful, actually. Bishop b6. Because it might threaten bishop takes f2. Yeah, I'm kind of losing the thread here. I'm thinking, looks so ugly. Bishop b6, rook f1. Okay, that's a welcome sight. I can take this. Ooh. Okay, I have this move. We're getting a bit low on time. Rook f6. Okay, I just have to move quickly. I have 42 seconds left. Queen d7, good move. Let's play this. I'll draw back with the queen of queen h3. Yeah, I'm in a little bit of trouble here. Time management has not been great. Gonna try and get the queen out. Probably put the rook here. And black's dealt with this very well. Okay, hitting f3. Also defending this from a distance. Trying to get in for some attack. Still not easy. Ugh. Okay, winning the queen. But I have 18 seconds, no increment. Gotta bust out the pre-moves. Some hesitation there. Okay, I'll win the rook. Okay. Everything should be under control now. Plenty of time. Stressful game. Also, this isn't stalemate, thankfully. G5, only legal move. Okay, 9.4 seconds to spare. Oh, man. Yeah, games are getting much, much tougher. Time management probably was not to be admired there, at least on my end. Maybe my opponent could have slowed down a little bit to put up more resistance. But yeah, let's go through from the beginning. Yeah, I do want to make the point that it was probably worth playing a move, either moving the A pawn or C pawn, like A4, ensuring that if knight A5, the bishop can drop back. I think I played rook E1 a little bit too quickly. Also to show if C3, knight A5, then I'd save the bishop like this because the bishop has C2. It doesn't have to go back to B3. But it wasn't a big deal. We traded bishop for knight, and then I eventually traded knight for bishop. And I think this whole plan of like trading off my darks for bishop, removing black's knight, and then getting my knight to d5, it was really nice, hopefully instructive for the viewers. But then once I executed the plan, I probably didn't play the right follow-up. But a4 still seemed fine. But then around here, yeah, black got some active play. And I played queen e2, but yeah, maybe there's a better approach. Engine says rook a6, which actually makes some sense. That's a nice square for the rook. Fixing the pawn on a7 and constantly pressuring the d6 pawn. Yeah, because queen e2 is kind of just a waiting move. And I ended up losing time too because I played queen h5 next. And I mean, my opponent played like really solidly, like got a slightly passive position, but held things together, found the best square for the bishop on d8. And like already here, the engine says it's about equal. Of course, yeah, it was still very much a fight. I got this b4 break in, and then, yeah, I eventually won the a pawn. But then it still got a bit tricky. I was reluctant to play pawn a6 because it allows bishop b6. My plan was to move my knight back to d5, and then after this, I think I was just going to play like rook a2. I mean, white's still for choice, but yeah, then, I mean, black has a strong bishop. Maybe at some point I would have to sack. But that didn't happen because queen b3 was played. I went into d7. And yeah, in this position, I was really scared of bishop b6. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do because if I'm careless, like let's say I take the pawn, black has bishop takes f2. And this is pretty much winning on the spot because if king takes f2, black is mating by force. The queen and pawn just work together. King e3, queen e2 mate. King f1, it's going to be mate eventually as well. So, I mean, I was aware of this potential threat. I think I was going to play rook f1 here, just defending the pawn. But it's very delicate because my queen defends a rook, which defends a knight. Engine says black is nearly winning after bishop c5. How does this work? Bishop c5, knight d5. Rook a d8. My queen is being kicked around. Queen c6. Rook c8, queen d7. Yeah, there's some like long tactics. Apparently bishop takes f2 is winning. Rook takes f2 and then rook c1. Yeah, I'm kind of going deep into this tactical line, but goes to show the danger of the position with the bishop finding this diagonal and the pawn on f3 helping support a mating attack. So yeah, rook f7 let me off the hook, but then I had less than a minute to try and convert this position. And at this point, it was just a matter of trying to stay calm, making sure I'm not like blundering any mating ideas from black. I was aware of queen h3, had to fend off the threats, and then gradually improve my pieces. And I think I was very thankful to have this rook e7 move. Like if black just waited with rook, let's say rook b7, this is a hard position to convert with just 20 seconds left. Because yeah, it takes a lot of patience. I'd probably have to eventually win the f pawn and then push the e pawn. So yeah, two very hard fought games today. I think this will be another 2-game episode. Two very hard fought Italians. I hope you guys enjoyed the chess. As always, if you have questions, do leave them below. Look forward to reading the comments. And if you like the content, do subscribe. It does help the channel. And I'll see you guys soon.